So hey there fellow YouTubers, it's Frank Bush here again. I'm just out in my local area. I'm not actually out in the backcountry this weekend. I'm just out in my local area doing a little bit of a hike and just enjoying my weekend. It's a long weekend in the location I'm in, a holiday weekend. So I'm just taking it easy really, but as part of my hike, I wanted to stop and cook off coffee. And what I wanted to show you guys in this video was how to use a Ridgeline to do a pot hang in order to cook with. So I'll cut scenes here and I'll switch back and kind of walk through the process of exactly how that's done. So stay tuned. So I'm just going to stop here for 2 seconds and whip together myself a little improv tripod so I can get the camera. It's right now sitting on a stump of a tree, but I want to give myself a little bit more flexibility to be able to film this. So I'm just going to take 2 branches I found. One's a Y branch, the other one's within reason, straight stick. I've got a loop of cordage. It's 28 inches round. I'm going to double it up on itself. I'm going to feed it onto both sticks, and then I'm going to take the one straight stick and just spin it a couple times. And I want that to be just a couple inches from the top of the sticks. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but my GoPro camera has some tripod legs on it, so I can easily latch onto this and it just gets the camera up. So I've got this part set up now. At least I've got some sort of raised camera environment. So I'll shift angles here and then I'll start to get on with the actual setting up of the Ridgeline to cook with. Okay, so I'm just going to pop my bag off now and I'm fairly close to humanity. So you might hear noise in the background of motorboats and that kind of stuff. I'm right on the edge of a lake. A lot of people like to fish this area. So I'm just going to pull out my Ridgeline. Now, this is a classic Ridgeline I use all the time. And if you've watched previous videos of mine, you might have seen this in use. And really, all it is a quick release Ridgeline where I've got 2 prusik loops that are tied on, and there's a eye on the one end. So I'm just going to pull a bit of that out to give me a bit of length. Now the thinking really is I've got this tree here and I've got this tree here. I'm going to put up a Ridgeline between them and I'm going to do it roughly about chest high. So I'll just grab a stick here. It's one of the other things I'll be using, and just a little piece of debris. So the thinking really is I'm going to slide those prusiks down a little bit on that line just to make sure that they're going to be in the center later on. But I'm going to take the eye of the Ridgeline, just going to wrap that around the tree. Now I'm going to take the cordage on the main Ridgeline. I'm just going to feed that as a bite back through that loop. I know it's green cordage, but hopefully the camera's picking this up all right. And really I just put a bite from the main part of the Ridgeline through this eye, so I can then take a stick, feed it through, and apply tension. It allows me to cinch this up nice and close to the tree, and I've got a good solid connection onto that tree now really easily without having to tie any knots. So now I'm going to take the Ridgeline and come across to the other side. I'll switch angles here and show you the detail of what that looks like, but I'll just bring this end around the tree and kind of toss it through, and then I'll change angles and show you the knots that I'm going to do on this side, but I'll also show you what's happening over on this side. Okay, so now I'll just give you a close-up here of what exactly is going on. So like I said, I had that eye, hopefully you'll see that. The eye is right here with the knot. I just fed a bite of the line through, coming around the main Ridgeline part, and then stuck a stick in it to kind of lock it and give it a little lock point where that eye is hooked on. And I can apply a lot of tension, and as long as this wood isn't too punky and it's not going to just shred from the tension against it, it'll be able to hold a significant amount of tension on this point. So now I'll set up the camera, switch angles, and show you how I attach the other side. So now, like I said, I've just wrapped that Ridgeline around the tree here, and I've got the other end of it, and it's really just raw line. There's nothing, there's no knots, there's no anything on it. It just goes to a clean end. So the thinking really is I'm going to take the Ridgeline itself that's going to be up between the 2 trees. I'm going to kind of come back from the tree a little bit and take my hand and kind of grab it in reverse or backwards, if you will. I'm going to roll it in my hand. Then I'm going to reach through, grab the ridgeline itself, and I'm going to pull towards that tree. And it gives me a loop now that's in here, that's quick release. I can apply tension and it just pops right out. So I'll show you one more time. Kind of pull it that way and it sets. Now with the other end that's already wrapped around the tree, I'm just going to bring that right through that new little loop that I've created and pull it all the way through. Now this gives me like a pulley point right here where I can apply tension, and I can apply a lot of tension. So I'm just going to kind of bring my ridge line so it sits relatively level, and I'm going to apply a lot of tension to it. I'm just going to pinch right at the point where the fold is and bring it all together. Then I'm going to grab a bite of the line, pull it over, reach through, grab the surplus, and then pull it tight back on itself. And that gives me a little half hitch now where this line is on there and it's secured. So this is called a trucker's hitch, and this loop is all quick release. So when I want to pull this all apart, it's really rapid. I simply pull on my line, that comes undone, I pull my line back out, I can apply tension to that knot and it snaps back out, and all my knots are back out from this side. So I'll just quickly set that back in place again so I can carry on. But I just wanted to show you how easy it was to kind of de-release, if you will. That might not be the best word, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. So I just put that loop back in there, set all the spare line through, apply tension, because I want to make sure I'm sitting relatively level. It's not critical, just looks nicer. Give it as much tension as I can possibly apply, grab that line with the bite, pull it on itself, and set it and lock it. And that's set, it's not going anywhere. I could easily turn around and grab something as simple as a pine cone, take that loop now that's in the half hitch, and just pull the tension and let that pine cone lock that half hitch so it doesn't slip out by accident. It's a way to kind of put a little safety on here. But now, as you can see, I've got two Prussiks that are on the line. I'll use one of those for this example. So I'll switch angles again and show you the next step. All right, so the next order of business, I just got to get out another piece of cordage. So 2 seconds. I'll just set that out right now even. And we'll set that out. So if you watch previous videos of mine, you've seen these types of setups many times. I've got little 6 to 8 foot lengths of cordage that I'm using, where they're all quick release setups. Now on this line, I've got a little loop in the end, as I do with most of my lines, and I've got a single Prussik on there. This Prussik isn't critical in this example. I'm not going to bother taking it off the line, but it's normally on my line standard anyways. But I wanted to show you how using common equipment that I already have pre-configured, I can use in a variety of different ways. So when it comes to setting up the hang part from the ridgeline to hang my pod on, I'm going to take the eye of the cordage like I did going around the tree. I'm just going to feed it back on itself to create a new loop. I'm just going to stick a stick through and set that onto itself. And the other end is really just raw line. So I'll switch camera angles here and I'll show you how I hook this now, this setup, onto the ridgeline itself. Okay, I'll try to show this as cleanly as possible. I really should have brought my orange rope, but such is life, right? So I'll just move the one Prussik out of the way. So I've got the Prussik sitting on the line right here. If you don't know how to tie Prussik knots, there's tons of tutorials for that. I think I've even done a video or two with explaining how Prussiks are done, but I'm going to take the end of the line. So I've got this guy line I just discussed earlier with the stick on the one end with the loop on it and that. I'm going to take the other end of this guy line and I'm just going to feed it through this Prussik loop. Now I'm going to take this, I'm going to do an underhand loop towards myself, and I'm going to do a modified Fairmont hitch here where I take the loop, I take it and wrap it 3 times around the main guy line with the stick on the bottom, and then I'm going to take the tag end, I'm going to feed it through the last of that loop as it starts to form tension. Like I said, as discussed in previous videos, this is a modified Fairmont hitch. I'm just dressing up the knot now to make it look a little cleaner. And now what this allows is this modified Fairmont hitch can be slid on the line. And what that does is it raises and lowers the stick that I have on the end. I'll show you a better angle, but I wanted to kind of touch on the modified Fairmont hitch first. And this is really what gives me my up and down adjustability. So this knot acts like a Prusik loop. As soon as you slide it to a certain position on the line, it'll lock and hold. It'll stay in that position, and I can apply tension onto it, and this knot's not going to slip. As soon as I'll move the Prusik out of the way so it's not visually distracting. As soon as I move this modified Fairmont hitch up or down the line, it'll lock into the place that I set it. And if I want to move it, it's as simple as kind of pressing on the knot and sliding it down the ridgeline. So, and then I can also move this Prusik left and right on this guy line now. So it allows me to have a left, right, up and down. There is more advanced setups you can do when it comes to purely guy line cook hangs. I'll probably show that in one of my next videos, because I don't think I've put that one into a video, where you can do front to back, left to right, and up and down, which is ideal when you're wanting to control your cooking pot as it sits over the flame. But in this example, it's more simple, something quick where I can easily just boil off a coffee. If I don't have the wood, which I don't really in this location have the small sticks that are say 6 to 8 foot in length to build a tripod. If I'm in an area where it's mainly larger trees and I don't have the small little sticks to kind of build tripods and do those things, this is an ideal way to go. So I'll shift angles and show you the flexibility of this. I'll just move the camera back a bit. I just wanted to be up close so you could see that knot. Hopefully the camera got that well. Okay, so I'm just going to stop and start to get my coffee prep ready, if you will. So the location I'm in, I'm not going to burn wood. I've got this metal bowl here. Potentially you could do a wood-based fire. I'm using this to help it visualize on the camera so you can see. Like I say, the area I'm in is very restrictive, so I've got an alcohol stove and I'll be using that instead of wood, but I'm really using that to just help as a visual aid and to stop any heat from directly being on the earth itself. So I've just got my cooking pot. If you've seen previous videos of mine, you'll see this little 750 mil titanium cook pot from Toaks, I think it is, has been a pillar in my survival videos for years now, and it's a really top shelf product. I'm just going to fill that up with a bit of water to make my coffee with. I don't want to be shy, because I do like coffee, and like I say, if you've seen previous videos of mine, I've got a combination of coffee, powdered milk, sugar, and hot chocolate, all pre-mixed to the mixture I like, and it's already pre-ready to go. I just have to add it to the hot water, so I'll be using that to make my coffee, and pretty well everything's ready to go. I just have to get my flame in underneath this Ridgeline, and then show you the control I have with the pot and positioning it over top of this flame. So I'll switch angles and I'll show you that as the next step. So now I'm just going to take my pot, and so I've got this stick that I attached onto the loop of the end of the guy line, and I'm going to take the bail handle on my pot. I'm just going to feed this stick through that entirely and then let it come back onto itself. That'll now hold that pot, and it's not going to spill or tip over anything. It's solid. And like I say, when it comes to the adjustability of this modified Fairmont hitch now, if I slide this up, I can raise and lower that pot's position of how high it is off the ground. And if I slide the prusik to the left or to the right, it gives me the left and right adjustability. So I'll just kind of slide this out of the way for right now. And now my metal pot with my alcohol stove in it, I would figure out roughly where exactly I want that to be. And now I'm just gonna slide my pot into position so it would be sitting cleanly over top of that. And I can even raise and lower my Fairmont hitch to determine exactly where the best place is that I want that pot and alcohol stove to sit. This seems like an ideal spot really right there. I'm sitting about a 1/4 inch or so above, and this pot's acting like a slight wind guard. It's a little breezy here, it's not too bad, but really everything's set up and ready to go. So all I'm going to do is take that modified Fairmont hitch, bring it back up so that the hang is out of the way now. Gives me access to the pot where I've got my alcohol stove in, that I can now turn around and just throw flame into that. So I'll cut angles and I'll shift and come back. So now that I've got everything lined up, I'll simply take my alcohol stove, just pop off my little cap, unscrew it. Set it down into the bowl. I'm just going to use my Bic lighter to throw a spark into it. It's now throwing flame. So now I'll just simply lower that, or well, raise the Fairmont hitch, but lower the pot down and position that exactly where I want it, right over top of the fire. And I've got really granular level control to how close to that alcohol stuff I can get. Like I said, you could easily apply this all to if this was a wood fire and I had wood burning in this bowl rather than the alcohol stove. It's very flexible in that regard. But this is really a simple way to kind of do a cook hang if you don't have a lot of small wood to whip together tripods and that kind of thing. You know, it's been over exaggerated in the way I've done things so you guys could see the details. When I set this up when I'm out in the field, this only takes 2 or 3 minutes tops for me to do. I think this video is probably dragged out longer than that, breaking down each individual component and stuff. But when you're out in the field and there's not cameras on you, you're just giving or doing things. This comes together really, really rapidly. So I'll switch angles now and show you a close-up of the cooking pot actually cooking over the alcohol stove. And then I'm just going to cook off my coffee and enjoy the lake in front of me here. Now to show you how truly low-key this really is, you barely even see the flame burning. I'll just lift the pot. You can see the flames fully going, but really the entirety of the heat of that flame is being focused right on the very center of the bottom of this pot. And like I said, I could even lower it a little bit if I wanted to get it, you know, a 1/4 inch or so off the alcohol stove. But you could do the exact same thing if this was a wood burn. You know, you'd have your pot up a little higher because there'd be a pile of wood sitting in here, but it allows you, if you had a bowl to use, it allows you to cook without even leaving any marks on the ground. It's kind of no trace cooking, if you will. So like I say, I just plan on cooking off my water, bringing it to a boil so I can make some coffee. So, and as you can see, it's very low-key. There's no smoke that comes off of it. It's all very contained and controlled. There's definitely no worry about things getting out of hand in that regard. Even if the alcohol boiled out and spilled, it would just go into the bowl. You know, not a single piece of wood is going to be damaged in any way, shape, or form in that regard. You know, so it's very good if you're wanting to do covert stuff where you're not wanting to leave any marks on the ground or anything else. This kind of setup, whether you're using wood or not, is really very low-key and very controlled. So this has been on the flame now for about 6.5, 7 minutes. It's really getting quite hot. The water that I used was potable water to begin with. I'll probably give it another minute or so. So I don't have to worry about bringing it to a full boil. this lake that I'm beside is a freshwater lake. If I had pulled water out of there 100%, I'd bring this to a full boil. It's not necessary, and I don't like wasting resources, so I'm not going to do that in this video. I'm just going to let it get a little bit hotter and then add in my coffee and that. But as you can see, when I want to take this off the heat, I simply slide that Fairmont hitch, and it now lifts it well above the heat, and I can slide it off entirely and just let it sit for a minute to cool down. Like I say, I still want to get about another minute or so out of this cook, so I'll slide that back down again and just set it right back into the flame. And as you can see, a very nice level of control. You don't get that front to back, but when you've got a fire going in a bowl, you can do the front to back yourself. Like I said, if this was a wood-based fire and it was on the ground, you're either having to attempt to move your fire around if you wanted to bring it, front and back to you, or you make sure that everything's really well positioned before you go getting your fire going to start with. Then typically I would say to do that, to put out your dry bed of wood that you're going to build your fire on, right under the location that the pot would be sitting hung. But like I say, either way, I'm going to cook this off for maybe another 30 seconds or so. I'll lift it up off the heat, let it cool down so I can grab the handles, add my coffee, and sit and enjoy the lake for a bit. So I gave my pot about a minute or so just to cool down. I know I've burned my little fingers on it a million times, so I've got a good gauge for how long this thing takes before it cools enough that I can handle it. Now, like I say, it's got little handles on the side. It's still warm, it's not enough to burn me by any means. But now to take this off, I simply lift this up, slide that stick out that was on the line, and now my pot's free. I'll just come sit that down, and a spoon in my bag. Like I say, the water's good and hot. Normally do about 1 heaping spoon, maybe a spoon and a half per cup of water that I would use. There you have it. So now I got my coffee sitting here. It's actually a little bit too hot to even drink at this point in time, so I'm just going to let that sit for a minute, and then I'll just let the camera run as I go through how long it takes to actually take this whole setup apart, to show you how kind of rapid it is, if you will. So my guy line has already been released from the Ridgeline. I'm just doing my wraps to turn it back into a rapid release later on when it's sitting in my bag. So the guy line's been dealt with. As you can see, it's been bundled. And when it comes to the main guy line, or Ridgeline, if you will, I just popped that out as I stated earlier in the video. Pull all the cordage through, snap that loop that was in the line out to give me the trucker's hitch, pull on the stick towards me, it frees up the loop, frees up the stick. I'm now completely off that side. I've got 2 prusiks on the line, so I have to slide those down so they don't get in the way when the rapid release happens later. But I slide the prusik loops down to the end where the loop is. And I think I've shown this in previous videos, but how to bundle up your hanks of cordage for quick release the next time you use them. If you haven't seen how to do that, I recommend you go watch some of my rope craft videos where I teach exactly how that's done. And as you can see, I'm almost back to where I started with when I arrived here. It's really quite rapid to take these down and to set them up. It's one of the things I like about them. Using the trucker's hitch that I described earlier in the video is a great way to apply an ample amount of tension to the Ridgeline that you set up. Now my alcohol stove is cooled down to the point it's safe to handle. I put my lid on it. It just makes it that it doesn't spill any alcohol. And then it's got a damper cap that I put on to it. The bowl's back down to ambient temperature. I'll throw my unused coffee in the bag, and I'm left with just my cup of coffee. So it's just that quick. You can set this up in a matter of 2-3 minutes if you get used to doing it and it becomes second nature to you, and have it torn down in just the time I showed. And it allows you to quickly set up, do cook-ups, tear down, and go. So I hope you enjoyed this. I know it's not a full-length video. Hopefully I'll be doing another one of those in the near future. It's been super busy for me in my schedule of day-to-day stuff, so I found it difficult to get out into the backcountry and do a full-length video just to get that window of time to do it. But hopefully that'll come again in the near future. If not, I'll put out littler videos that are more made closer to where I live. One way or the other, I'll keep producing content. And for people that have made comment about my breathing being a little heavy in some of the past couple videos I've done, I believe I was infected with COVID in the early part of the year. It caused significant lung impact to me. I was impacted with that around February or March. Even to this day, we're now into October, months later, I'm still feeling the lung impacts of that. I feel like there's lasting damage that happened. I have some good days and some bad days, so if you do hear the heavy breathing going on in my videos, that's what's going on. So there you have it. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you enjoy this type of content, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Cheers.